Um,
Tom Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. So somewhat of a voice rather than a picture today. But we have with us John Hellerman. He's here because he has an unusual approach to PR. But what he wasn't aware of before joining was we just had a survey done of our audience, and it surprised us that 71% of respondents said that they didn't believe in PR. That surprised us. So when John
they didn't believe in it.
do not believe in PR.
I have a job to do that.
It's under 50 employees, not primarily, but your thoughts. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself personally and about your company, and finally, a website.
Sure. Well, my name is John Hellerman. I'm the principal of Hellerman Communications. We're a boutique public relations firm serving primarily professional service firms and professionals, so lawyers, doctors, accountants, consultants. Although primarily our niche has been with law firms and lawyers, and helping them and their clients generate thought leadership content, helping them market, helping them credential their reputations. And then part of our practice, although not very important to our discussion today, but just I'll mention it, that marketing side of our practice is about 60% of our work, and about 40% of our work is crisis and litigation communications, which of course we derive a lot from our referrals from the law firms we service, the accountants and other consultants. So so it's a nice business. I've been in the business since the graduating college in mid '90s in Chicago, and then coming to work for a primarily crisis communications firm here in DC called Levick Strategic Communications. It's now Levick, I think, and which is a pretty big juggernaut firm. And had my own large agency for a while, for a number of years, and then got out of that and started this boutique. And you know, I think it's very interesting that you mentioned the survey you did, that people don't find it very valuable. I'll tell you that over the years, I've been in it now for more than 20. It's been an interesting sort of journey in the sense of the value that people find that the content has, in the sense that people want to generate content, but there's also been sort of a devaluation of the service and a commoditization of it, I should say. So there's a lot of content, obviously, there's a lot of noise out there, and part of our job is to help clients generate content that's actually worthwhile and is serving the purpose that it's being generated for. And I can kind of get into that a little bit, but even in a small firm where you have, less than 15 employees, I would say, and I'm talking more specifically sort of about selling expertise than sort of a retail product or doing PR for, say, a home that's for sale if you're a real estate agent or whatnot. But the actual expertise of how you sell a home if you're a real estate agent, or the actual expertise of how what advice you would give to two companies that are merging. Those are the types of thought leadership and analytical stories that we're interjecting our clients into. And I would say that if you're any professional from in a professional service firm, typically the professionals, the partners, the people providing the expertise to clients are the products themselves. And so although a firm might have 100 partners, each of them are seeking some sort of marketing effort, whether they have to do it on their own behalf or whether they have firm support for it. But in the sense that when someone is selling their own particular expertise, or their small little practice groups expertise, little niche groups expertise or expert solution, then it doesn't matter if you're a team of 15 or a team of 2 or 1, getting out there and creating a reputation and credentialing your reputation and your expertise is really important. And that's sort of what we seek to do from our company perspective. You mentioned, I guess our website is at hellermanllc.com. It's HELLERMAN LLC.com.
Okay, that's a start. I'm sorry to drop that one on you. But just something, but to clarify, what they were saying is, even though they bought the PR, a lot of them had, they hadn't seen the value, or they hadn't felt that they had gotten true value for what they were paying. And so when you came along, you have a different model. Do you want to
I
explain
do.
it to our audience?
Yeah, well, that's very interesting here and actually very heartening because I actually developed this sort of model specifically for the folks that sort of didn't see the value they were getting out of their previous PR purchases and the sort of monthly retainers that typically are necessary, et cetera. So yeah, real quick, we have a system. I'm an acronym guy. I love acronyms, so we use a lot of acronyms in my firm. Just from a sort of a philosophical standpoint, one of the acronyms we use is SMART PR, which stands for sharing media about relevant topics produces revenue, right? Or produces relationships. And if you're a relationship business, then it produces revenue. And so the idea is to create and share content that is relevant to your audience, your market, and do that repeatedly. And also philosophically, I should say that I don't really see the value of the content that's being created per se as a communication piece. And that might be a little bit off the beaten path for listeners, but it's really about credentialing the reputation. So in other words, this is very cynical from a PR guy, but I don't think that a lot of people are reading the actual content. When you're quoted in the newspaper, when you're quoted online in some article, or you create a byline opportunity, the people that are reading the actual piece of content are much fewer than the people who will recognize that you wrote the piece of content or authored it or were quoted in it. So it's not so much the actual appearance on CNBC, for instance, but it's the fact that you are regularly appearing on CNBC. And so I think that kind of credentialing is really important. And so we designed a system that sort of just takes into consideration that a lot of the content that our clients are typically generating is commoditized on one hand, and on the other, it's designed to really credential them as opposed to communicate for them. And so unlike a typical monthly flat fee sort of retainer, which are great, and I created a system that I'm going to mention in a minute to sort of combat what you mentioned about the sort of the unknown value and the lack of transparency and sort of a lot of retainer counts. People are happy-ish. I like to say, they feel like they may or may not be getting what they're paying for, but it may or may not be so much money that's worth changing or not doing or whatever. So they just sort of stick with what they've got, and they kind of feel good about it, but they never know because it's a very untransparent way of delivering the service. And the other thing about retainers, unfortunately, is that they tend to misalign interests in the sense that the agency, is trying to manage that retainer, which is usually built against some sort of hourly sense of commitment. And they're trying to balance that against the client's desires and requests and needs. And there are industries where that sort of that scope management is very tight and not tremendously worrisome. In my business over the years, working with law firms, the scope creep is large. You come in thinking that you might be working for 15 partners over the course of 6 months, and instead you're working for 25 or 30, and so you're trying not to deliver half as much for each, but it's also very difficult to manage those types of scope creep requests and things against a retainer. So we developed this system, and again, I'm an acronym freak, so we developed a system we're calling FAME, and it stands for Focused Authoritative Media Exposure. Every lawyer, every professional needs some fame. And it is just that, some fame, some of it. We want to be able to give our clients a way to manage their resources properly and decide strategically on who to spend money with. So the way fame works is we have a small onboarding fee. It's sort of like a user license for each partner that we're going to be consulting to and developing opportunities for. And that fee covers like a light media training and a bio optimization, a LinkedIn optimization. We get them sort of ready and prepared to receive some attention from some of the content that we'll eventually create. And then the firm, on top of that we'll buy a package of what we call fame credits, but basically a package of earned media credits. And then the different types of earned media we deliver, like interviews, byline opportunities, speaking opportunities, awards, all the different types of content that we generate have different credit values. So a byline article is a 2,000 credit product, and an interview is a 750 credit product. And so as we develop those, we deduct them from the credit balance. And obviously, sort of like a cell phone minute plan, the more fame credits you buy up front, the less they are in the aggregate. We have courtesies ranging from about 5 to 10%. So it's a great deal, and the trick is that it enables us to offer a starting sort of engagement for like $7,500 is sort of the average thing to generate a mix of about 3 or 4 high-level opportunities for a particular individual or thought leader. We, as part of that onboarding fee I mentioned, we're developing a universe of media and outlets and influencers that are acceptable. So before we begin pitching anything, we're basically making sure that the media list that we've created for the client's behalf is exactly what they want, because we're basically working off contingency. So we're only going to pitch the opportunities that they want to accept. So we're only billing for we're only deducting credits. They're paying up front, so there's that part of the risk is it's not fully contingent. They are making a deposit basically, but we're deducting our success against that deposit, and we typically have that bundle of credits lasts for 6 months, and if they want it back after 6 months, it's refundable. So again, it's a system whereby they are only paying for what they want, and only when we get it and deliver it. So that's sort of a difference. And rather than have, we have, and again, I don't want to, I mean, retainer accounts are useful in some situations and for some clients. And we certainly have some clients that are on retainer accounts. But, from a $5,000 retainer account or $25,000 retainer account, when you have a 6 or 12-month contract that can't be, canceled, et cetera, if you're unhappy, it's a huge commitment upfront for a firm. And so with our model, we have these small packages to get you started. And if you like our work and feel like we're doing what you're paying us for, which is how this is all designed to work in the first place, then my sense is, and it has been that you buy more and you come to us for more requests. You want to put more partners through the program, et cetera, and it allows us to grow the scope as much as the client likes.
I'm old enough to remember a time when, if you made the New York Times, suddenly it became very easy to get into other publications. And
sure.
Now I'm in the process of launching a book, not a business book, but historical fiction. And in talking to PR firms, they all talk about a 6-month ramp-up time for the book before they could even consider something like the New York Times. And that's 6 months is at the maximum $36,000 before you even start. And most,
sure,
and that's a big commitment for an author.
Yep. I happen to think it's probably a little bit of BS, because getting in the New York Times, obviously, I mean, just the beginning of your question, I guess, is that obviously getting in bellwether media allows you to get into more a broader mix of media. So you sort of start, if you think about the New York Times as sort of a bullseye, there is sort of a starting out, building up your sort of media resume, who you've talked to in the past. Maybe you can show them a clip, et cetera, and you can work yourself into the bullseye. But it doesn't take, well, it shouldn't take 6 months, because really the chief goal of any kind of firm like ours is the value of the content, right? Like, you know, a lot of firms will sell their they'll mention their resumes, you know, which reporters they know and can call frequently and whatnot. You know, we're an agency. We're on the phone all the time, broadly for B2B. You know, we have these law firm clients and accounting clients that have these mass practice groups across every different industry. So we're calling healthcare trades and energy trades and, you know, fuel oil trades. We deal with a wide range every day, and so we know a lot of reporters. But we always tell our clients that we don't try and sell our Rolodex, because we don't pitch crap to friends. And if the content isn't worthwhile in the first place, then calling up a friend in the media to ask them to do something with it will create a, you know, you'll not have a friend very quickly.
Mhm.
So you can only come to friends with good content in the first place. And if you have good content, then you can make a new friend if you don't know a reporter, because you have great content. And so I would say that getting in the New York Times, you know, it's probably not going to be your first hit, but I don't think it needs to take 6 months either. It's a matter of putting together a good package and story, and that might not be the element of the book that's the most important sort of story for the New York Times. It might be an element of your backstory or something about this podcast that led you to the book. Although I know you said it was historical, but in other words, it's more about the you know, crafting, I think, the pitch so that it works. And again, this is partly, you know, my system, which is that I want it to be based on success. I think that, you know, my colleagues and I are really good at creating really good, interesting content for outlets, audiences. You know, we know that the audiences are the end users of this stuff, and so well, that's what we're really good at. And so I would love and like when, you know, a client engages me to be successful for them, because I'm going to be very honest with them under this system. See, this is the other thing. The interests are very aligned, right? They only want to pay for what they're going to get, and I only want to deliver what they'll pay for. So we have a very clear discussion. There's you know, we have a universe of accepted media that they sort of will accept opportunities from, and I'm just delivering that, and we're just trying to deliver it. You know, we create this mix, so it's a guarantee. I can't guarantee that I'm gonna get you in the New York Times, but I can guarantee you I'm gonna get you, you know, if you buy 10,000 credits from me, I'm gonna guarantee you, it's sort of like an advertising buy and gross rating points. You know, I'm gonna guarantee you 10,000 credits worth of valuable media. It might be several smaller things. It could be one big thing and one smaller thing. It's gonna be a mix. I can't tell you what the mix is, because that, you know, we're dependent on third parties. That's what gives everything its credibility and value. But I can guarantee that it'll be the amount. And that scoring allows us to allows us to compare and benchmark clients against competitors. So we can go out and score competitors' sort of, you know, earned media against our system, to show a client, for instance, that maybe a competitor is operating in the market over the last 6 months and has 10,000 points worth of earned media according to our system, and they might only have 2,000 points. So the firm should invest 8,000, you know, points worth of media in them, and we, you know, they could buy that from us, and we have a very clear cost of what that is and whatnot. And so firms can really understand how they're going to allocate their resources, because right now they spend a lot of time and money on some folks that don't need it because they're competitive and highly competitive already. And that means they don't have the resources to spend it on people who could really use it. Or they spend it on people who sort of waste it, where they're not good at sort of using it in a way that creates opportunities for the firm.
John, your website again for people and how people can reach you?
Sure. It's HellermanLLC.com, HELLERMAN LLC.com.
Okay. Now, again, we're into interesting territory. I come to you, I'm an attorney that's thinking about expanding my business nationwide, let's say. I'm domiciled in Delaware, but now I'm thinking I'm going to become a national firm. What are some of the questions I should be asking you, and what are some of the questions you should be asking them?
Well, I mean, a typical, some of the questions they should be asking an agency are, what kind of scope do they have? What kind of, I'm all for case studies. Do they have referrals, testimonials, who they worked with in the past? What are some of the projects they've worked for in the past? And what are those successes that they've had? I mentioned that we don't really market off our Rolodex, but I certainly market off my sort of portfolio of past projects and case studies because I think that in our market it's not typically rocket science, but there's a sort of a formula to coming at these issues and topics and creating content interest around them, and that's what we're particularly good at. So that would be the first thing. What have you done in the past? Do they show you something that you go, wow, I wish that could be my, I'll give you a story actually, Don, if you want. I was at a firm early in my career and I was sitting with the managing partner of a large law firm. And I asked him, and this is a question that I would ask someone like you, what firms in the market do you find yourself wanting to emulate? Like who's doing it right? Who do you see that you go, gosh, I wish we could do that? Or, just who do you emulate? And he started a long sort of moving speech about his emulation of another particular firm, and just was going on and on about how great he thought the firm handled its marketing and the sort of the reputation building of the managing partner that was similar to him and what he had wanted. And it was he and I and the marketing partner, the marketing CMO at the table. So it's the three of us. And I actually stopped him and said, I want to, before we go on and you tell me any more about your practice or the firm or any details, I just want to mention there might be a conflict. This particular person that he had mentioned was a client of mine. And his eyes sort of widened and the CMO's mouth sort of popped open. And it was a very tense moment. Time sort of stopped because we'd invested a lot to this point, and get to this point and sort of be conflicted out would have been a nightmare. And the managing partner had looked at me and looked at his CMO and said, well, if you can do it for him, then you can do it for me. And so I think that that's sort of the overarching requirement from a firm searching for an agency or consultant to help, is that you want someone that has done it for others in the past. And that's part of where this whole credentialing thing comes from in the first place, right? Like we want to help people who have done good work build and credential their reputation, so it becomes easier to sell, basically. But the questions I would ask you is, who in the market do you want to emulate? What are 2 or 3 hot topics that are going on right now that sort of keep your clients worrying your clients, or you're thinking about and you have expertise to deliver a solution for? So we'd be trying to hone in on what sort of the niche is, where you want to operate, what you want to be sort of positioned to be known for. And then we would put together a universe of media and other outlets. In the old days, it was just print. Now it's everything, including podcasts like this one, which are becoming increasingly more important and useful because they're so sort of niche oriented.
What about roadside billboards?
Well, that's an interesting thing. So I'm in sort of my field in terms of my expertise is in PR, and primarily for corporate law firms and corporate accounting firms and whatnot, less sort of retail, more B2B. And so my clients don't advertise on billboards, but I will tell you that billboard advertising for like plaintiffs firms and others can be very useful depending on the market and the placement and the billboard itself.
Well, do you do social media?
But these people do spend money. Sorry?
What about social media? Do you
of course, yeah. So
programs?
Yeah. Yep. Social media is a big aspect of what we're doing now. The shift in the last 5 years has been pretty incredible in our market of professional services, I would just say, because it's a very, in general, consultants and lawyers and accountants tend to be very conservative in general. So social media has always been something that they've tiptoed around, or they create like a website, they create a Facebook page or whatever, and they sort of check the box that now we're doing social media. But more and more now are becoming, there are more lawyers now with bigger, larger firms that are becoming brands within themselves based off their their social media profiles and whatnot. And so it's an interesting phenomenon to see in our business. But we're definitely helping clients manage their social media profiles. But we're also, and this is why the content becomes so important. We're helping them generate the content that we want them to share through these distribution pipes.
I hate to say it, coming to the end of our time together. What
Sure.
Two things: your website again, and what would you like to leave our audience with?
Sure. Well, the website again is hellermanllc.com for Hellerman Communications. It's HELLERMAN LLC.com. And I just would like to leave folks with the idea that, you don't have to be on a retainer account paying for the same thing every month when you can work on an individualized basis only for what you want with our same systems. That's sort of my message of the day. But if not that, then just do invest in thought leadership and content development because it can really help your business.
Well, that's why I asked you on the program, because I thought it was a terrific idea. So
Thank you, Ron.
on that note, we say thank you so much, John.